Hello everyone, welcome to week 0. This video, I'll try and keep it short and simple, is about the archaeology or the history of archaeology, and specifically the history of archaeology in the Middle East. I'm sorry for the mess. I'm about to move, and I'm sorry about the quality of the camera. It's my webcam on a 2013 MacBook, so it's not great. I hope you can hear me. And that, yeah, let's go. So archaeology, it originated in the 15th and 16th century Europe, and it was the elite of the Renaissance that collected antiquities from Greece and Rome. So these were considered more as art pieces than historical artifacts. So the interest in the beginning of archaeology in the Near East, or Middle East, sorry, began with Napoleon Bonaparte's invasion of Egypt in 1798. So he wished to obtain knowledge and understand the Egyptian people and their past. Probably also wanted to find some nice stuff. And to achieve this, he brought along 175 scholars, which was called the Institute of Egypt, or the Scientific Artistic Commission. So they brought a traveling library, scientific tools, and measuring instruments. And this expedition led to the publication of the illustrated book Description de l'Égypte, Description of Egypt, in 1809. I'm sorry about my French. The book was partly reason for this Egypt mania that is known from the 1800s. It's unwrapping mummies, like at private parties you would have a mummy and unwrap it, dressing up as pharaohs and building monuments, gates, etc. in the Egyptian architectural style. And mummies in Egypt, they kept on being a big theme when live film was invented, and it really still is today. So on this expedition Napoleon had, the Rosetta Stone was uncovered, and this is a very important finding because it actually helped us understand ancient Egypt's culture and society better, because we started to be able to read Egyptian hieroglyphs. So it was there's 3 languages on the Rosetta Stone: it's Demotic, Greek, and Egyptian hieroglyphs. And in 1822, Francois Champollion, he deciphered it, and it helped us a lot. So this fascination and conquest of Egypt that Napoleon did, and the treasures also, it led to this increased interest in the whole of the Middle East, from the European countries and the United States of America. So by the 20th century, there was a kind of competition between these countries, kind of a race to find the most treasures. The obsession with treasures and mummies, that meant that up until very recently, the understanding of ancient societies in the Middle East have been very one-sided. So it has been more interpreted from the elite's point of view and not the common population. So, been more obsessed about the kings and queens and not so much the person who built the pharaoh's pyramid, right? And this race of getting access to treasures meant that the consideration for careful excavation and recording, it was not taken. So it actually wasn't uncommon that explosives were used to get access to sites and treasures, to blow up places to get your treasures. These excavations and retrieval of valuable artifacts was largely sponsored by museums. Some of the most well-known archaeologists who were looting sites are Giovanni Battista Belzoni, who worked in Egypt, and then you have Henry Layard, who worked in Iraq, and he is especially known for the site of Nimrud. To stop these extreme looting of sites and the destructive process in which they were obtained, government-linked departments of archaeology was created. So, from France, Auguste Mariette, he founded the Egyptian Antiquities Service in 1958, and he was responsible for stopping the looting. He established the National Museum in Cairo, and he prevented antiquities from leaving the country unless they had a license. So, another important person is the Egyptologist Flinders Petrie, because he played a crucial role in archaeological recording systems. He was a pioneer in meticulous recording. He traveled to Egypt in the early 1880s and he studied the Khufu pyramid, so the Great Pyramid of Giza, and was the first to meticulously record the principle of the construction of it. And his report concerning the architecture of Giza, the pyramid in Giza, is still used as a basis of observation in this area to the precision, because of the precision and his methods. And he is also very well known for using ceramic vessels from the Nakada cemeteries to create a relative chronology based on ceramic seriation. So the seriation is, in archaeology, a relative dating method where artifacts or assemblages from several sites in the same culture are placed in a chronological order. And today we have what we call absolute dating, which is, for example, carbon dating. But when this cannot be applied, we use these relative dating methods. So seriation can be used for dating, for example, pottery shards and stone tools. Also Nakada, as mentioned, is also a period we're going to discuss during this course. And the way he did the ceramic seriation is by arranging pots in a stylistic order and assuming that one end of the order was early Nakada style with various stylistic changes marking the passage of time. And this method, as I said, we still use it today. And the Nakata culture was pre-pharaonic culture. And with this kind of investigation and the focus on the prehistoric remains of Upper Egypt and the Delta, Petrie and later his colleagues, or his later colleagues, were able to demonstrate a long evolution of the Egyptian Neolithic and pre-dynastic society. And these were not really the most common periods of interest in the Middle East, since, well, we don't have big tombs in the same way, or big pyramids, so not so interesting, right? The systematic approach that Petrie applied was developed in excavations in the 19th and 20th century, and it was developed during the extensive excavations of tombs, for example, Tutankhamun's tomb by Howard Carter in 1922, and the Royal Cemetery of Ur, which is Sir Leonard Woolley, during 1922 to 1934. And the discoveries now focus not only on retrieval of the valuable artifacts, but also on architectural recovery and the great art you could find. In 1920, Iraq established its first antiquities laws, which then was followed by the founding of the National Museum in 1926. And Leonard Woolley's excavation of the royal tombs at Ur led to the recovery of the Sumerian civilization. And it was first established by finding of its writing and later the cities. So the Sumerian civilization was established to having the earliest evidence of writing in the world and as the earliest true urban society. Sorry, I need to drink. Speaking too much. So, discussing Middle Eastern archaeology is a difficult topic, and we have to discuss politics too, actually. So with the fall of the Ottoman Empire, Western powers increased their presence in the Middle East, and it was France and Great Britain who divided the countries between them. So Transjordan, Palestine, Iraq and Egypt, they were under British mandate, and Syria and Lebanon was under French mandate. So this meant that France and Great Britain, they controlled the countries, and as such they had a say in the excavation and the fate of the artifacts. So antiquity laws has over the years helped to protect looting, selling and obtaining artifacts, and they have also helped countries around the world to claim their cultural heritage back from foreign museums. And a fairly recent debate about this is of the return of cultural heritage are the Elgin marbles or Parthenon marbles. And the marbles, they were originally part of the Parthenon, sorry, in Athens, and they were looted by Lord Elgin in 1801 and were transported back to England in 1803. And they have stayed in England, but Greece have for decades demanded to get them back. And in 2013, UNESCO actually got involved in the dispute and tried to solve the situation. And England and the British Museum, they're saying that the marbles, they're part of a shared cultural heritage which transcends political boundaries. And this actually does raise an interesting question about cultural heritage. Who does it belong to? Because it was a British guy who brought them back to Britain, but they are from Greece and it was Greek people who made them, probably, right? So who, do they belong to? And a further development in this particular case is that with Brexit, Greece was actually demanding the marbles and sculptures to be returned as part of the negotiations of trade deals between the UK and the EU. And the argument here was kind of reversing the UK's own argument that since the UK is distancing themselves from the EU and in a sense Europe, they're kind of distancing themselves from the common European history. The problem of these marbles still hasn't really been resolved. And for the Middle East, to get back to that, we have the issues of the ongoing wars in the region, of course. And the wars have resulted in the destruction of ancient cultural heritage, especially the destruction of Palmyra and Nimrud has caught the media's attention, and so did the destruction of the Lamassus, the human-headed winged bull deities, statues at the Nergal Gate, and the destruction of statues at a museum in Mosul by ISIS. And destruction of cultural heritage in wartime is actually illegal. It's a war crime. And I don't know if you remember when World War III almost broke out in 2020. It became a very hot topic, actually, this, because former President Trump, he tweeted, "Let this serve as a warning that if Iran strikes any Americans or American assets, we have targeted 52 Iranian sites, some at a very high level and important to Iran and the Iranian culture. And those targets and Iran itself will be hit very fast and very hard." So yeah, as I said, the cultural heritage is protected by several laws which deems destruction of them as war crimes. And when these wars, hopefully they'll end soon, the question will come about this cultural heritage that is residing in other countries. Should it be returned? It could be argued that during war times, the heritage is well protected in other countries, but the question is, does this give the other countries ownership over this heritage, or should it be returned to the countries where they originated? You know what? You can write a comment if you want and tell me what you think. What's your opinion about this? And you could think about modern technologies such as 3D models and holograms, if that could play a role in this. Would be nice to hear something from you guys. So cultural heritage, it has also been used in political campaigns, propaganda and manipulation. An example is Saddam Hussein. So in the 1980s, he encased a partial reconstruction of the facade in the monumental staircase of the Ziggurat of Ur, the Great Ziggurat. In the same period, paintings were created of him hunting lions in the style of the Assyrian lion hunt reliefs. And later the same was actually painted, but with Saddam Hussein fighting both lions and shooting down American missiles. Both the reconstruction of the Great Ziggurat and the paintings, they were political propaganda to prove his claim to power in Iraq. I will post photos of Saddam Hussein and the Ziggurat of Ur. And the last aspect I would like to highlight here is religion. So this especially ties a bit back to the ongoing civil wars and wars in general, which are political, but where religion is used as a means of asserting control. And also a bit like the Israel-Palestine conflict too. So wars against extremist terror groups in the Middle East of great damage to people and to the cultural heritage. So we have groups such as ISIS. They're not just destroying the cultural heritage for the sake of destruction, but it's also doing so to wipe out the region's prehistoric and historical past, especially before Islam, and in that way take control over history and the past. So it is done in the name of religion, but as we know, and as has been seen throughout history, religion has been used for control, to control people and control, everything. um, and as I mentioned, Israel and Palestine is also an ongoing conflict, which is about religion but also culture. So archaeology and excavations in Palestine today is close to non-existent unless it is under the control of the Israeli state. So an example could be the excavations in the West Bank. In the West Bank, the Israeli military has an archaeology unit and they're responsible for most of the excavations here. So there's an agreement between Israel and Palestine about the status of the West Bank and the artifacts that are recovered here. It is the agreement says that claims to the archaeological artifacts are to be negotiated in eventual future peace talks. Though the question of ownership of cultural heritage in this geographical area is actually unresolved, the Israeli military archaeology unit, they continue the excavations, and the finds they're sent to Israeli universities and museums. So in that sense, it could kind of be argued that they are in a way taking ownership of the artifacts by this action. Could also be asked that if we just leave them, if we don't excavate, would we lose something? The claims to the heritage, they're not only politically motivated, but also religious. So the question of who the cultural heritage belonged to is not just between the two countries, but between religion. So you have Zionists and very Orthodox Jews. They will argue that their heritage in the region goes further back than the Muslim and Arab. So they have a greater claim to the heritage and also the geographical area. Then you can also argue that should that be a claim to because you lived there thousands of years ago, can you then claim everything that has happened in the last thousands of years since you left, or were driven out? So, and you could also argue that actually the Arab Muslim population and the Arab Jewish or just Jewish population is actually descendants of the same ancestor, basically. So maybe they both have the same claim. So this has been interesting. I can see it's almost 20 minutes. I will put some sources and suggested readings, and I hope you endured this lecture. Again, sorry about the quality. I hope this was interesting. I hope you understood what I was saying. Please, any questions, anything, let me know. Have a really nice day. Bye.